Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edwin L. Anderson, and I am a graduate student at the University of Florida, currently seeking a master's degree in music education. And tonight, I would like to present to you my research proposal on music proficiency of steel drum students in secondary band programs. Thank you very much for viewing this video, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. The group that you see performing now is Space Coast Steel, formerly a Space Coast Junior Senior High School. It was a group composed of students 8th through 12th grades. I'm very proud to say that I was their director during my tenure there at the school. As you can see, the steel band offers a lot of different skills in music: harmony, melodic playing, syncopation, rhythmic consistencies. These were skills that I found highly valuable in my secondary band program with my students as well. Those students that I had in the steel band seemed to achieve a higher, greater skill of mastery of this. The research problem that we're looking at is there are now more than 600 U.S. school steel bands, that's school and university steel bands in the United States. Most of these ensembles, however, are before or after school programs and not part of the main curriculum. Most secondary schools don't consider them to be part of the main instrumental music program. They consider it to be something of a fad or a club. To date, no studies have ever been conducted to measure their contribution to the secondary performance ensembles such as band or orchestra. Does the steel band have anything to contribute to the musical skills of these students if they participate in the steel band? Brandon Haskett, who is at Saginaw State University in Michigan, is considered to be probably the foremost authority on steel bands in the U.S. in schools. He has done the most complete survey of steel bands and the study of pedagogical methods and educational philosophy of the directors. Mark Svaline, who is also very well known in the steel drum community as both a steel band director and as a band director, said, using this ensemble as a tool to help recruit new students to the music program and to generate new enthusiasm students already involved in the program. If properly established, the steel band can add great energy to the complete music program. He also says we'll give a new definition to heavy metal. Kenyon Williams, in his article, Steel Bands in American Schools, What They Are, What They Do, and Why They're Growing, discusses the program created by Mr. Brad Shores. The program's membership, when it first started, was 50% students from the band program of the school. Another program that's directed by Art Glentz utilizes only students that are committed members of the band program. Francis Guest, in the master's thesis, The Incorporation of Steel Drum Ensembles into School Music Programs, a New Pedagogical Approach, states another rationale for establishing the steel band in the secondary level is that cultural diversity and an outgrowth of the core performing ensembles, providing the students with additional music performing experience. David Walton, in his article, Music for Steel Band, an examination of the various styles which develop specific performing skills. I included this in the research proposal because this quotation here hits home for one of the reasons needed for such a research project as this. Walton writes, "Kinesthetic reinforcement through the playing of a percussion instrument tends to assist in the development of an inner timing sense. The simple act of striking a percussion instrument often stimulates the performer to become more cognizant of his or her own physical being. Furthermore, a sensitive awareness and synthesis of kinesthetic experiences, sensations perceived from movement, position and tension in the parts of the body, facilitate the learning and development of playing skills. This increased awareness allows the performer to realize and develop a sense of inner time and then function within and contribute to the community timing called for in ensemble performance. For most players, in the inner timing sense will be further developed and refined through the performance of ostinato based on the indigenous rhythm patterns of calypso, soca, reggae, and Latin American music. It also lends credence to the enhancement of the auditory skills of melodic recall, chord structure and function, voice leading within chord progressions, and melodic and rhythmic improvisation." Again, from my experiences as a band director, these skills listed right here from the steel band were critical in my secondary band programs and jazz band. Jessica Estridge did a mixed method study that was included in her high school students' musical achievement and improvisation on the steel drum, her master's thesis at the University of Delaware. This mixed method study measured the improvisation skills harmonically, rhythmically, and melodically. She says in her conclusions that improvisation is an important component for developing students' individual musicianship. Continuing instruction with an audiation-based approach to improvisation may lead to expansion of participants' tonal and rhythm vocabularies and more advanced musicianship. Participants' performance achievement was directly correlated with improvisation achievement. Again, these are skills that we see as band directors, especially in jazz band. I feel that there is a need for this study. As Dr. Haskett states very clearly in his article in 2014, there are no scholarly works that examine the ensemble's curricular outcomes in an in-depth manner. I recommend further research, particularly in-depth case studies that examine these questions. That is one of the things that I would like to do with this research proposal. Again, to reiterate, no studies have been done to measure the effect that membership in the steel drum ensemble has on the musicianship displayed in secondary instrumental ensembles such as band or orchestra. By band, we also mean jazz band as well. So the purpose of this study will be to examine if secondary wind band and string orchestra students who also participate in steel drum ensembles differ in their overall musicianship and musical success when compared to the students who only participate in band and or orchestra. As you know, some students will participate in both. The research questions for this study will be: do specific musical characteristics, such as rhythm interpretation, musical expression, and improvisation, differ between the two groups of students, the two groups being those in steel band and those who are not in steel band, in the band or orchestra ensembles? The second one, do external measures of musical success, such as solo and ensemble ratings, differ between these two groups of students? Do the steel band students who are involved in band or orchestra, do they tend to score higher in solo and ensemble than the other students who are not? Or do they have the majority of the superior medal count? As in Florida, here every school receives a certain medal count. Do these students who are in steel band, do they have the most of the superior medals? Or are they consistently scoring in the superior or the excellent ranking? Finally, third, do band or orchestra directors perceive any musical differences between the two groups of students? Do the students who are in steel band, are they actually performing better than the students who are in band or orchestra? And again, that's in the secondary ensembles. For our methodology, first we have the selection of participants. Participants of this study would be comprised of student participants and director participants. The criteria for each of the schools selected is that it has a full day of scheduled steel band classes and as part of the music curriculum of the school, i.e. that they actually have a separate steel band class with a separate director, as well as a separate band and or orchestra program. The student participants of this study will be selected by the steel band director of those who are involved in steel band and one of the secondary ensembles. They have to be registered active participants of both ensembles. Director participants will be the full-time music teachers that are employed by their respective schools of the study as band, orchestra, and steel band directors. I feel it is critical that we have the input of the steel band director as well on the type of musicianship that is being taught, the degree that is being taught, and also that their opinion of the musicianship that they display inside the steel band. Another qualification for the directors is that they are certified in the field of music education. And the goal of the selection of these participants will be to collect data from both student and teacher perspective in order to create a more complete picture of what we're looking for, this phenomenon. That is the focus of this study. The reason that, again, that we selected these participants is the goal of the selection of these participants is to collect data from both student and director perspectives, because sometimes students may have a little bit different view of their musicianship than the director, or they may think that they are stronger in one skill and that the skill transfers over, helps them in the ensemble with their, the secondary band ensembles with their instrument. So I feel it's good that we have that different viewpoint. So for the procedure, we're going to use a mixed methods study for this. We're going to compare perspectives of the student participants, the band director and or orchestra director, and the steel band directors. Each participant is going to fill out a survey that has been specifically made for their category. For example, the student participants will have a certain type of questions on theirs, similar to the others, but still more geared toward the student perspective. The band or orchestra directors will have one geared for them. We'll ask some questions specific to the nature of their occupation and to their duties as the ensemble director. And finally, the steel band director will have one that is again, created to get their perspective of the musicianship and the skills of the students from the steel band director. And the reason I want to do that is that you have the steel band director may say this student is very strong in improvisational skills, is very strong in the skill of syncopation. I want to compare that to the band director survey of the same students. Say, well, look at this. Does the director feel the same way? Are these skills being transferred over? Is the skill that they learn in steel band helping them in the band program? The survey will be in the form of a questionnaire consisting of demographic questions, Likert-like questions, and open-ended questions as well. The student questionnaire, the students will be surveyed on the demographics of their gender, grade, years playing the steel drum, years playing in band and orchestra as well. Likert questions will be used to ask students to rate the proficiency in the categories of rhythmic interpretation, musical expression, improvisation on the steel drum, and on their band and orchestra instrument. Do the skills from the steel drum transfer over? Do they feel like they have an equal skill, or is there a greater skill on one instrument versus the other? Likert questions will also be used to rate the belief of the steel band experience in the growth of their skill in the band or the orchestra. And finally, open-ended questions will be used to ask what other influence, positive or negative, that steel band has upon their band or orchestra experience, and ratings that they have received in solo and ensemble. Again, with the open-ended question, I want to try to create a more complete picture of this phenomenon. And that student response, that student perspective is, to me, an integral part of this study. For the band and orchestra questionnaire, band and orchestra directors will be surveyed upon their demographic data of gender, number of years teaching, and the level of degrees earned, whether it be a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate. Likert questions will be used to rate the general belief of the effect that steel band has upon their students that they share with the steel band ensemble in regards to rhythm, interpretation, musical expression, and improvisation. And finally, open-ended questions will be used to ask what other influence, positive or negative, that steel band has had upon their students, band, or orchestra's educational experience. I'm very much looking forward to examining the student perspective versus the director's perspective. For example, if a student says that they have such a positive experience in steel band, and they love taking that and love taking the skills that they learn in steel band to the other secondary ensembles like band or orchestra, does the director feel that the way that they are trained in steel band, does it feel like that has a positive effect in their ensemble? Are the skills that they're learning there, they feel it really contributes? I'm very interested to see what that perspective is. The steel band questionnaire, they'll be surveyed again upon the demographic data of gender, number of years teaching, and the level of degrees earned. Likert questions will be used to rate the effect that the steel band experience has in regards to their students' skill in rhythm interpretation, musical expression, and improvisation. And also, since in Florida, where the study will be conducted, we actually have a steel drum festival, I'm also going to ask for their ratings for that festival as well, and also the ratings of any of the students that have done solos for this festival. And finally, open-ended questions will be used to ask what other influence, positive or negative, that steel band has had upon the general music skill of the student participant, i.e., and the steel band class itself, with their experience in steel band, does the steel band director feel that their musicianship has grown? And I would like to take that data from that survey and compare it to the similar question on the band or orchestra director survey to see if there is a correlation between them. When analyzing the data, we are going to use descriptive statistics for the research question. Do specific musical characteristics, rhythmic interpretation, musical expression, improvisation differ between the two groups of students? What we're going to do is, from the Likert questions or Likert type questions on the survey, we're going to convert those to numeric value. Strongly disagree will be 1, disagree 2, no opinion 3, agree 4, and strongly agree 5. Mean, medium, and mode will be determined for each Likert-like question, as well as standard deviation. From all 3 surveys, student participant, band orchestra director, and steel band director. The frequency and range of all the answers will also be analyzed as well. Do external measures of musical success, example given solo and ensemble ratings, differ between the two groups of students? Band or orchestra directors in the questionnaire will be asked to list the number of each rating received in the last solo and ensemble festival that they participated in. And the percentage of steel band students who participated in that solo and ensemble that received a superior will be calculated from the data of both student and director questions. Finally, we're going to average that together to see what percentage of steel band students did score superior in that festival. Do band and or orchestra directors perceive any musical differences between the two groups of students? Again, just like the first question, the data is going to be changed to numeric values. Mean, median, and mode will be determined for each Likert-like question, as well as frequency and range. Also, though, we're going to the open-ended questions, and I feel this is important to get that, will be analyzed using a coding scheme of positive or negative feedback. Frequency of each scheme will be calculated. To summarize, ladies and gentlemen, steel band ensembles are becoming more and more prevalent in secondary schools. They are still growing. Every day I hear of a new program that's popping up, but most of the time, again, it's a before or after school program. This study is needed to see if there's an influence, positive or negative, on the traditional secondary band or orchestra ensembles. Does the steel band contribute to these ensembles? If the results are positive, it could help encourage the development of more steel band programs in the United States. Even though it is growing, I feel that we could do more. Cultural diversity and multicultural music education is becoming more popular in the States, and steel band is a wonderful medium to use that. I've had the personal pleasure of establishing 4 steel bands in my career, and each one of them has led to a greater success musically and of cultural understanding for my students, opening their eyes to different forms of music, being able to see through the eyes of another culture, to understand that music in the world, it's not really better or worse, it's just different. And I think that this would be very much needed. Perhaps this study could also inspire someone to do an even greater study of this, a more in-depth study to add more data to this problem. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to my research proposal, and have a good evening.